Ukrainian forces have targeted an oil facility in the Russian border region of Kursk. According to authorities, a 100-ton fuel tank was on fire, with firefighters working to bring the blaze under control. Officials say Ukrainian forces used drones in the attack that occurred in the early hours of today. Local Governor Roman Staryovoit confirmed that the strike caused no casualties, noting that law enforcement and special services are working at the scene. Meanwhile, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says he expects the U.S. Congress to appropriate additional funding for Ukraine to fight Russia. Speaking ahead of a NATO defense ministers meeting in Brussels, Mr. Stoltenberg thanked the U.S. Senate for approving an international security and package for Ukraine. However, the bill faces strong Republican opposition in the House of Representatives, where it's expected to be blocked. During a U.S. trip last month, the NATO chief said he sensed that there was a broad agreement on the sustained support for Kyiv and that he's counting on the United States to reflect that support. The VOA's Anna Chernikova is in Kyiv for us. Anna, great to see you. Now, even though this additional funding for Ukraine has been announced by the U.S., yet to be approved in Senate by the Republicans, just a few weeks ago, Ukraine also received, an announcement of 50 billion euros from the European Union. It will take some time, however, won't it, before Ukrainians begin to feel the impact of the funding?
Yeah, for sure. Good evening. For sure. And, it's still, until the final decision is made, still Ukrainians cannot be sure that the funding will come on time or that the funding will come, even this year. So the mood here in Ukraine is, it was really a positive news about Senate voting in favor, but of the support. But people still, are waiting until they can actually celebrate, if we can put it this way, because there are still a lot of questions if there is any chance that this bill can pass the next stage fast, because as we can see, the House of Representatives, well, there are a lot of doubts in there, and there is a very high risk that this will take some more time.
Anna, what would it mean for the Ukrainian army if the Republicans in the Senate do not approve this bill? How would that reflect on the Ukrainian army and their fight against Russian invasion?
Well, the main issue is that Ukrainian army is actually already lacking ammunition, and this is probably the most important issue, and this affects directly Ukrainian servicemen at the front line. So the lack of ammunition means that at one point, Ukrainian soldiers will have to save, they are already saving according to the latest reports that we are getting, but they will have to save even more ammunition and use even less, and as less as possible, meaning that more people, unfortunately, may die because of that. If we're talking in general, not only about frontline, but in general, the situation, if we look at the situation in Ukraine, air defense will also suffer because Russian missile attacks are happening every day, and very often these missile attacks or drone attacks are happening, are covering the whole territory of Ukraine and happening across Ukraine. So, and we already can see from the reports of the air defense that if, for instance, half a year ago, Ukrainian air defense managed to destroy almost all of the missiles or drones, let's say up to 90%. Now we can see that the percentage is less, and normally it's around 50. So this is probably the answer to your question, what's the direct impact?
Yeah, and no one expected the war to drag on for this long. We're almost celebrating the second anniversary. of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So I'm just wondering, what cities in Ukraine have been left untouched so far? I know that Kyiv receives bombardments almost every time. Kharkiv and some other areas, Lviv and so on, are being bombarded constantly by Russian missiles. Are there any cities in Ukraine still left untouched by the Russian invasion?
It's a very difficult question, actually, because it's really difficult to name a city which never had any explosions happening or any attacks happening. Probably there may be some small towns or in the region, in the deep west regions. But for instance, the city of Chernivtsi, it's not that small city. It's quite a big city, but still, comparing to other cities, not that big. But if I'm not mistaken, no direct hits or direct debris hits were reported in the city. Around, yes, but not in the city itself. Maybe some additional cities also, but really not much. Because if we're talking about the massive missile attacks, the whole territory of Ukraine is under the air raid alarm, and it's really every report includes almost every city. So probably it's just easier to say maybe 5% or even less of the cities in Ukraine were not affected directly with hits or debris fall, but of course they're directed. They are suffering in other ways because people who live in that towns, they are the front line, and time to time they die, and these cities have to farewell those those sons of their land. So from this point of view, every city is definitely affected.
Sorry about that, Anna. And I know that, this just makes me imagine that much of the Ukrainian population is living in bunkers, as we speak, even you speaking from one of those, just to be safe. So what does everyday life look like now in Ukraine?
We can definitely say that Ukrainians are adapting as much as possible to life under missiles and drones and everyday life. It looks like that Ukrainians are carrying on. So those cities that are not the frontline cities or cities which are bordering Russia, for example, because in that areas artillery shelling is making the life of people almost impossible. But those cities who are deeper inside the country, like Kyiv or western cities, central part of the country, southern cities, even east-west, east-southern cities, because of course, if we look at the Dnipro, for instance, or Zaporizhia region, which is really close to the front line, but still people are trying, and Kharkiv as well, people are trying to live on. And I can say that most of Ukrainian cities, which are not, at the front line, keep on going as much as possible. People continue to work to make economy run, to try to celebrate their children's birthdays or some family holidays, just to make this mentally possible to survive all the pressure that the full-scale invasion has on them. So it is a very different life, and it looks like it's never going to be the same as it was before the full-scale invasion. But people are trying to adopt and combine missile attacks and normal life as much as it's possible.
Yeah, sadly so. So NATO is counting on the US and a NATO member to arm Ukraine. Does Ukraine expect more from NATO at this point?
Well, it was this yet another meeting by the in the NATO format, and certain decisions were announced, particularly on drones. So more drone, quite an amount of drones supposed to be provided, and also this new structure was announced, the creation of the center in Poland that will include Ukraine and NATO member states. Creates this certain cooperation, deeper cooperation between them. So definitely Ukraine wants to get into to become a member, first of all, and to get at this point at the deeper cooperation with NATO. And there are a lot of hopes on that. And of course, everyone understands that it's difficult to to become a member as a full-scale invasion is ongoing, and but still, as we can see, Ukraine is trying to find different ways with the allies, with particularly NATO allies, to get into this deeper cooperation. So, well, we will be following this, but this is definitely one of the top news here in Ukraine every time when any meeting is happening, and Ukraine is definitely looking forward to get into deeper cooperation with NATO and to become a member state at one point in the future.
Anna, thanks again for your reporting, and do stay safe.
Thank you.